Dear guests, welcome to Icsg Virtual Meet Sessions. My name is Mert Sert, the project leader of Icsg 2021, and I'm going to be your host during our virtual meet session today. And we are with Mr. Mark Ossel. He is a member of the board of Open Smart Grid Protocol, or SGP, we can say, and senior vice president of Network Energy System Corporation. And Mr. Ossel, welcome to ICSG Virtual Meet Sessions, and we're so honored to have you. Now, if you allow me, I would like to share some information about yourself to our viewers.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be with you, George.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Ossel is member of the board of OSGP Alliance, the global non-profit association dedicated to promoting the adoption of the Open Smart Grid Protocol, OSGP, and infrastructure for smart grid applications towards a future-proof modern smart grid. Mark is actively involved in international standardization efforts and member of ETSI, Warriors CEN, CENELEC technical committees, TC13 and TC57, ESMIC and member European Commission Steering Board Task Force Smart Grid. Mr. Russell has a degree in marketing and economics and has a background of more than 20 years in various management functions in the information and communication technology market. Before he became involved in energy management, smart metering and smart grids in 2001. Mark is also Vice President NES, focused on developing the energy and utility market for network energy services in Central and East Europe, Middle East, Africa by extending the network of partners and growing the customer base. He is involved in AMR since 2001 when Echelon started with Intel, the world's largest AMR project, and has been involved in most large-scale deployments in Europe. And that was Mr. Mark Ossel's background. And if he is ready, we would like to start.
Let's go on.
Okay, then. Mark, it is obvious that you have a great experience in this sector. Could you please tell us about your successful career and your business life, please?
Well, my pleasure. It was my luck that I started in the computer industry in the early days, talking end of the 70s, early 80s. The days where no one yet had education as such in computer science. Therefore, I learned and understood the basics of computer science and have been part of the evolution of the industry to the current stage. This provided me an understanding of the basics as well as the technologies, the advanced applications and architectures. And having been part of the evolution of the computer industry as well as the telecom industry, you can compare evolutions in markets, technologies, and learn from history and how to adapt. After being in the ICT world for over 20 years, I've now been in the energy or utility market for over 20 years and have seen the evolution, which in fact is slower than in the other markets. I do believe strongly in the energy transition, a necessity in my opinion, moving away from fossil fuels and preparing for a decentralized energy system. This is the major challenge in that industry. That may be the red line in my career. I've always been interested in new technology and what it can do, but placed within a vision on how the world will evolve, will look in 10, 20 years. Beside that, I had the opportunity to have international responsibilities for American companies, like Unisys, Echelon, and NES. I traveled for decades around Europe, Middle East and Africa, and Asia, being responsible for the business and met many people, cultures, which enriches your life and if you want business. So I think the combination of technologies, the international experience, made me what I am today.
Very nice. And as far as we know, you've been a member of Rotary International as a club president and non-executive member of various boards. Besides, you've been playing an active role on the UNESCO Heritage Program, I guess. UNESCO World Heritage Program. Yeah, all of these kind of social activities needs an order. So, what is your advice regarding time management for CEOs and the professionals?
Well, interesting question there. It starts with the basic philosophy that you have more responsibilities than just the primary job. Of course, family, friends come along maybe first, but also a social responsibility to use your capabilities and experience to benefit others as well. That was the basis for Rotary when I started. We all have the same number of hours a day, so it's a matter of choice how you spend it. Planning comes first, along setting priorities. I still make a to-do list every day, and sometimes a few times a day, to decide how I spend my time. But in the bigger scope, it's a balancing act, and it's time-bound. There is no rule, and sometimes some areas need more time slices than others. And then you need to make that decision at that moment. But always, it's remembered that urgent and important are not the same. Spend most time on the important things which really matter and make a difference. That's my advice.
Very, very well. Now, I would like to ask some questions regarding our sector if you're ready.
Yep.
Okay, then. So let's get started. Mark, it is certain that the world has had affected by COVID-19, and it seems it's going to take some time to get back into circulation. It's for sure. After COVID-19, what will be changed in our city life? What do you think about new energy trends based smart city applications in this new period of life? I wonder your point of view, please.
Well, we're in the middle of the energy transition. It had already started. And in fact, COVID has delayed projects in some geographies, but in others, projects continue despite COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Solar farms, wind farms are being built more than ever at great pace. And even individuals, while now working at home, had time to spend their hours during daytime on putting solar on their rooftops. Decentralized storage is taking off and becoming normal, as well by individuals, by communities, or by municipalities. The energy sector was already in transition, and COVID has maybe even demonstrated the need for more accurate information about the energy flows in the grid. The changes in working from home, office and shops, and shopping malls closing, have a lot of impact on the energy consumption. The awareness of the need for information, especially regarding the low voltage grid, has increased. And then at the same time, it appears that security has become a bigger issue. More hacks, not from amateurs but professional criminal organizations or countries, are taking place at the same time. So, yeah, it is a time of change, and I think COVID might even have slowed down some rollout projects of, for instance, smart metering, but in general, the change in the energy sector is moving on at great pace.
Okay. Let's talk about OSGP if you like a bit. OSGP is one of the biggest supporters of Icsg since the beginning, and we are so happy to make a collaboration with you as OSGP. And could you please inform us regarding what OSGP does and what the main idea and targets to reach through this organization?
My pleasure, of course. OGP stands for Open Smart Grid Protocol. It is a protocol developed with the vision of the energy transition in mind, which will change the electricity system to a very decentralized architecture. Energy will be generated, used, stored locally. The OGP Alliance is a non-profit organization. Members are utilities, distribution companies, suppliers of hardware, software, services, who share the vision on the energy transition and understand the need for a technology, a protocol, which supports this new world. In this vision, different areas of the the energy ecosystem, like electrical vehicles, solar panels, generating energy, local storage, need to be integrated. They need to work together as one system. And that's a local, decentralized thing. Most protocols have been developed having in mind a single application, like metering, while OGP has been designed to provide a more reliable and flexible language to manage the low voltage grid. Having said so, OGP has initially, still today, been used for mainly and within the smart metering and smart grid management area. OGP is an open standard, and you can test that while it's an adopted standard by international standard institutes like you mentioned Sensenelec, Icsg, the European Telecom Standard Institute, and the IC. And it's extending the role of providing information to all the parties, companies, individuals, to be able to interface with an OGP environment. So it's a truly open standard. It is supported by more and more companies, building products, being compliant, tested by external well-known institutes, like KEMA or like NMI in the Netherlands, who basically check if the protocol implementation is according to the international standards. So the vision, which was driving it to develop it, and now being used by many large utilities like Vattenfall, E.ON, Tauron, Linz in various countries across Europe and beyond, make it one of the most used and proven standards today.
Okay, Mark, you were selected as one of top 40 most influential people on the subject matter, smart grid in Europe in 2015, and it's a very top level to reach, I guess, as an influencer. So, what is your perspective about smart grids and smart cities in the new era, in the era of Swift technology?
Well, I was surprised and of course honored when I read I was selected as one of the top 40 influential people. I think I got that honor by being a member of various international standard committees, as well as being a member of the European Commission Coordination Group Smart Energy, and as such, being a chairman or presenter on many events, like your event in Turkey, which I enjoyed many times as well. The energy transition is taking place as a much faster, faster speed than expected. Already today, many DSOs have trouble with the supply of energy in certain geographies or accepting feed-in from distributed generated energy. This, while they have limited insight in the topology of the local grid and the real energy flows. The European Commission passed a law whereby consumers and communities are entitled additional rights to generate, store, and consume energy locally, including the settlement between them. And the DSOs have the obligation to support this new rules. The main issues right now are that regulators in most countries need to approve investments in tariffs. And they're still looking into today, or even worse, history. They don't take into account what investments are really needed for the future. And that basically will cause trouble to every grid in the near future. Smart cities, as you said, where all the energy generated and used is optimized between the different subsystems, will only be possible if one has a good insight in the energy flows in that area and can manage it. And that is not the case today.
Mark, I understand that in this sector, in this utilities sector, there are some major points and some subtitles to be highlighted. And one of them is digitization, I think. Could you please talk about the current challenges of the digitization in the utility sector?
Well, yes, there are many. There are many challenges, and maybe the first one is understanding cost and benefit, or the necessity. I'm convinced without doing the right thing now, all the DSOs who don't do the right thing will run into trouble. But it starts with cost and benefit. Well, if they're state-owned or commercial operation, um, what I see, and it's proven by reports of the European Commission, is that most countries, regulators, utilities have a different view on the cost as well as the benefits of smart metering. And the results in those reports show that very different attributes are taken into account per country. Or the cost of smart metering, as an example, is perceived very different, with significant difference ranging from, let's say, less than $100 per metering point for hardware software installation up to 700. Mm-hmm. And benefits have the same magnitude. People don't understand the benefit in asset management. If you have the proper insight in the energy flows, you can size the transformers, put the investment where it's needed, overcome outages, and so on. So understanding cost and benefits is one of the challenges to do the right thing. That is beside the fact that, in my opinion, there is no option. You need to invest in digitizing your network for collecting information, be able to control your network until the last moment. You need to know the voltages, the energy flows, not only at substation, but on transformer level and on feeder level. Now, the next step is then regulation and financing. Mm-hmm. If you share that vision that the things will change, then you need regulation to support your investments. And that's the second challenge in the utility sector. Regulators who basically are by political push or by lack of understanding don't allow the proper investments and don't look at capex and opex at the same time to ensure that utilities, DSOs, can put systems in place to be ready for the future. The financing of that is perceived as additional investment with no return, and that's, I believe, a mistake. I do believe there is a business case in every country right now if you basically put the proper investments in place. The next one I would like to mention is the culture gap inside the distribution company between medium voltage and low voltage. Not technology, but people and cultures. Until now, a lot of focus has always been on high voltage, transmission lines, medium voltage up to the subsystems with SCADA systems, and the team managing the grid stability, and not beyond subsystem, which maybe supports 20,000 amps. But the real dynamics changing are now beyond that subsystem in the low voltage grid, where the metering people from history put the meters in place, roll the cables, pull the cables, and basically have no responsibility for the SLA of the grid. And those departments, in many cases, don't talk to each other. They don't share the information or lack the understanding. So a culture gap inside the DSOs is the other next one to break that barrier, so that the people in grid operations, mainly today up to substation level, talk to the metering guys and use the meter data which is available from advanced systems. When it comes to analytics, the meters today can collect 50-minute values, 5-minute values, multiple load profiles, a lot of data. And if you have 500,000 meters, millions of meters, the amount of data you collect daily is significant, really big data. So you need the proper systems in IT, the proper analytics to make sense out of the data. There are very few analytic environments available today, advanced analytics, because we do tell you what's going on in the grid and where you need to focus. NES, as a company, has invested a lot in that sense. And the OGP protocol and the data collected by OGP devices is as such that it can help a DSO to provide insight in this low voltage grid. The last item I'd like to mention is security. Security is the next challenge. While the grid is more and more digitizing, the risks of somebody or some organization entering the grid somewhere, being an optical point, being a power line communication, being a modem, a data concentration, it doesn't matter where, but entering the system and derail the system, switching off parts of the city, the country, and providing wrong, false information, changing tariff schedules, or take as an example, replacing keys when you cannot access your devices anymore. So the next step after you've done everything on the security level, which you think you can do, is intrusion detection. So now we, for instance, have developed an application, Gridwatch, which watch commonly, constantly, all the events taking place, and raising an alarm, giving advice where to look, what to do, in case there is a potential intrusion, a potential hack of your system. And that, I would say, are the main challenges the utility sector faces, and I would agree, that's a lot.
Mark, thank you very much for this great summary regarding the sector and the challenges. So we understand it very well. In this context, what would you like to tell us about the future of open standards for smart grids?
Well, I could talk hours on that topic. Standards are interesting. They're a need to ensure that devices can talk one to another. Companies can develop hardware, software, which can be integrated, but it's in many cases misunderstood and misused. And first of all, there is the difference between physical standards, like power line, and within power line, there are different technologies used for passing bits and bytes through a power to 30 volts. Communication standards, network topology protocols, data models. Now, all of them are in many cases mixed. And people then perceive a specific name as embracing all of them, which is not the case. And on the other side, with standards, many suppliers say they comply with the standard, but in fact, they like to have their unique features and attributes to compete and to create a value add, which I do understand, but it normally locks somebody into that specific supplier as well. And the last thing I'd like to mention there is that standards evolve. No technology, no standard will remain the same over the next 5 or 10 years or beyond. It doesn't say that devices you buy today will be superseded in a few years. No, of course they will work, like our meters are built to last for at least 20 years, and you can use them for 20 years. But it doesn't say you're going to use the same meter with the same technology, same options for 20 years. In 5 years or 3 years, we will have a next generation with different features, maybe with new technology, like communication technology, upstream or downstream to the in-home environment. That protocols change. Today, Zigbee or Z-Wave might be favored, but Zombie might be favored in a few years because of cost, speed, security, whatever. So most important is people look at standards in a different way. They need to look for interoperability, ensuring things can work together. Standards will evolve, and new technology will come and go. So it's much more important to look to an architecture which allows you to implement new technologies in the future. So my advice, if somebody buys something today, start with a vision, then an architecture, and then use for today the most proven, reliable technology today. But with an architecture allowing you to move forward as well.
So, what is your approach regarding OSGP, and how does OSGP enhance the capability of utilities?
Well, the OSGP is constantly looking to enhance the value of the product by adding functionality, features, increasing the technologies and capabilities on which it's implemented. Initially, it was implemented on power communication, with smart metering, as you said. The initial project that I know in Italy was the basis, but then we moved on. And today, other technologies are in some countries being preferred, like LTE-M, that is a wireless technology, or narrowband IoT. In many cases, due to the local environment, like the Nordics, where more people are living in the countryside, where sometimes wireless technology might make more sense or has a better business case than power communication. OGP is now available on various physical power line technologies, as well as on wireless point-to-point and end-to-end technologies. But the issue there is that our view is that, as I said, interoperability becomes the bigger issue. And that means you need to look for a different layer than the low-level physical layers and protocols. The latest ideas, and we published a white paper on the OGP.org website, is a white paper on head-ends and SIM, a common information model. SIM is a new standard, has been around for a decade, but implemented more and used more and more as the global glue for a DSO or a utility to exchange the information between the different subsystems. Mm-hmm. So while technology evolves, every utility will use different technologies alongside. Some, at one moment in time, select the power line technology. At another moment in time, years after, it might select the wireless technology. But then it integrates as well a system for car charging or for local storage management. Well, those different subsystems could perfectly be integrated with the SIM architecture. The SIM architecture and the SIM protocol would allow you to have the same language on top of all the different subsystems and technologies used. Mm-hmm. So the white paper explains why a multi-headed architecture is better than a single-headed, which so-called embraces all the technologies of today. A multi-headed technology with a common glue above it, which is called SIM as a protocol, is the advice to move forward. And within OGP, as I said, we are very much driven by a vision into the future, and this is one of the cornerstones. An architecture, a protocol, allowing you to move forward and not be bound to any decision made in the past.
This is a fact that smart grids and related applications have been essential and seems like this case will be ongoing situation in this new era. So, does OSGP offer any applications and what are the most useful benefits of them?
Well, the OGP Alliance doesn't provide applications. It's a non-profit organization, but our members do. Mm-hmm. The latest interesting areas to mention are specifically the analytics, I mentioned it before, providing insight in the energy flows, which helps the distribution company to plan and manage its assets. Giving insight in which area of a city, which transformer station, which feeder is overloaded, because in that street, maybe 10 people bought a new car, an electrical car, mm-hmm. and the draw of energy is significant. That kind of information need to become available, and new applications do allow it. And the other area, security. An application to increase the security level by adding, for instance, role-based access or key management systems, extending the protocol in those areas, as well as those new applications for intrusion detection. New wave in security. So within OGP, we basically talk between the members all the time on how we can extend the protocol or can ensure the members work together, the utilities, the DSOs, as well as the developers, in using the latest technologies to fulfill the wishes or address the risks for the utility. The last applications, by the way, mentioned in the security area, developed by some members like NES, do not work only on an OGP environment, because If you take security and intrusion detection, of course, an intrusion could come from any of the substations and areas. So you see there that even it's expanding to embrace other protocols, other technologies as well, taking all the events happening in an environment and applying the proper analytics on those events to identify where there might be an intrusion taking place, or a trial of intrusion. So it's the focus on extending OGP capabilities as well as ensuring coexistence and integration with other protocols.
Okay, Mr. Ossel, would you like to send a message to our ICSG TV viewers through this live broadcast?
Well, it's an honor and pleasure to have the opportunity. And the first I'd like to give is it starts with a vision. I think I've made my point. If you're a utility, a regulator, you sit together as a management team and you need to discuss how the world will look 10, 20 years from now and agree upon it. And then define how you get there and agree that any investment you're doing now, next year, needs to support already the future work, needs to have the capability to support that future work. While all the investments you're doing will last for 10, 20 years and your business case is built up. In many cases, decisions are made, tenders are published, which request a solution for today, which of course is wrong, and one will regret in a few years. Therefore, the other advice is on technologies and standards. Select today what has proven to perform best. Don't be a guinea pig with new technology. But take proven technology. But ensure it provides the ability to adopt, to integrate and coexist with new technologies and different islands of automation. And of course, the best advice I can give to you is join the OGP Alliance so you can use it, promote it. Thank you very much.
Dear Mr. Ossel, thank you very much for this great interview, and I would like to thank you for your support to ICSG since the beginning. It was an honor to host you as always.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, we were with Mr. Mark Ossel, member of the board of Open Smart Grid Protocol and Senior Vice President of Network Energy Systems Corporation. I would like to thank you for joining us and hope to see you in our next session. Until then, I wish you all a great day on behalf of whole ICSG team. See you soon and stay tuned.